My Airbnb host was my abusive stepfather, and he treated me like a perfect stranger for 3 days. I pulled up to the cabin at 8 p.m., exhausted from the 6-hour drive for my company's quarterly planning retreat. The listing looked perfect. Secluded mountain property, hot tub, everything I needed to finish the presentation that would make or break my promotion. Then the door opened, and I saw him, Greg, my stepfather. The same man who'd put cigarettes out on my arms when I was 10, who'd locked me in the basement for days, who'd beaten me so badly at 12 that I couldn't sit down for a week. But he just smiled warmly and extended his hand like I was any other guest. "You must be Daniel. Welcome, welcome. Let me help you with those bags." His eyes passed right over me. No recognition whatsoever. The scrawny, terrified kid he'd tortured didn't exist in this 6'2" bearded man standing in front of him. I shook his hand, my heart pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. "Thanks for having me." He looked older, grayer, but those hands were the same ones that had left bruises all over my childhood. He gave me the full tour, pointing out the coffee maker, the trail maps, the wood for the fireplace. "I really pride myself on hospitality," he said, beaming. "Want my guests to feel like family here?" Family. The word made my stomach turn. This was the man who'd told me I was worthless garbage, who'd screamed that my real father was smart to abandon me. Now he was asking if I preferred foam or regular pillows, offering me homemade cookies from a jar on the counter. I took one, chewed it slowly, remembering the times he'd made me go to bed without dinner as punishment for existing. That first night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, listening for his footsteps, my body remembering what it felt like to be afraid in a house with him. But nothing happened. In the morning, he knocked gently and left fresh towels outside my door with a note about the best hiking spots. I found him in the main house later, tending to his garden. "Sleep well?" he asked cheerfully. "This place is special to me. Built it myself after I left my old life behind. Fresh start, you know." I nodded, gripping my coffee mug tighter. "Ever have kids?" I asked casually. He paused, then shook his head. "Nah, never did. Probably for the best. I wasn't exactly father material back then. Like it was ancient history. Like there wasn't a kid out there who still woke up from nightmares about him." I started testing him. Left my old Little League trophy on the kitchen counter, the one with my full name engraved on it, the name he used to spit out like a curse. He dusted around it, didn't look twice. I played the radio station he used to blast while he drank himself into rages. Nothing. I mentioned the elementary school I'd gone to, the street we'd lived on, the hospital where he'd driven me twice after accidents. He just nodded politely, talking about how that area had really gone downhill. On the second night, he invited me to dinner, said he liked cooking for guests when they seemed lonely. We sat across from each other at his table, and he told me about his journey to become a better person, how he'd been angry and lost in his younger years, how he'd hurt people he should have protected. "Biggest regret of my life," he said, staring into his wine. "Walking away from someone who needed me. But you can't change the past, right? You just try to do better going forward." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table, to show him the scars still visible on my forearms, to make him remember what he'd done. But instead, I just sat there, watching him play the role of a reformed man who'd found peace in the mountains. That night, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos until I found it. Me at 12, right after the worst beating. My face was swollen, my eye nearly shut, a split lip that had needed stitches. And there was Greg's hand on my shoulder in the photo, the one my guidance counselor had taken when she'd tried to build a case. The case that went nowhere because I was too scared to testify, because he'd promised worse if I talked. I printed it at the library in town the next morning. On checkout day, Greg hugged me goodbye like we were old friends. "Come back anytime, Daniel. You're welcome here." I left the photo on the coffee table with a note tucked underneath. "You were a terrible father, but you make a decent host. 2 stars. P.S. I turned out fine despite you." I was 20 minutes down the mountain when my phone started ringing. Unknown number, again and again. Then a text. "Daniel, is that really you? Please, we need to talk." I blocked it, then blocked the next number and the next. The scrawny 12-year-old he'd broken would have answered, desperate for an apology that would never be enough. But I wasn't that kid anymore, and Greg didn't deserve another second of my time.